In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful. Welcome to your beloved school, Hussein. Hello, my dear students. I'm Mr. Mohamed Said. I hope you are all fine. And today I'm going to present you a very important revision on Unit 16 entitled Animal Stories. I hope it will be useful for you all. Let's start. The learning objectives of Unit 16 lessons 1 and 2 are: number 1, write sentences in the past perfect and the past simple tenses. Number 2, talk about stories with a moral. Number 3, use some new vocabulary in the text. Number 4, extract the main idea and details from the text. Let's start with the new vocabulary. Number 1, borrow. Borrow means take something from someone, then return it. Number 2, terrible as an adjective. Terrible means very bad. Number 3, greedy. Greedy means wanting more than you need. Goose as a noun. Goose means a bird that lives near water. Number 5, golden as an adjective. Golden means made of gold. Wise as an adjective. Wise means able to give good advice. Let's move to the reading of Unit 16, The Ant and the Grasshopper. It was summer and the ant was collecting food for the winter. Grasshopper looked very content as he sat in the sun. Grasshopper hadn't done any work all week. "Don't be foolish," said the ant. "You know that it's hard to find food in winter. What could you do if you didn't have any food?" "It's still summer," said Grasshopper. "I refuse to think about winter yet." When the winter came, Ant had found enough food to eat until spring. Grasshopper remembered Ant's wise words, but he was very hungry. Reading number 2, The Goose and the Golden Eggs. One day, the farmer found that his goose had laid a yellow egg. When he picked it up, it was as heavy as metal, and he thought it was bad. He decided to take it home, and he soon found out that the egg was made of gold. Every morning, the same thing happened. The farmer soon became very rich. He sold all the golden eggs at the market. However, the farmer soon became greedy. He thought that there must be a lot of golden eggs inside the goose. So he killed it. When he had killed the goose, he found that there were no eggs inside it. Now, give one word to give the same meaning. Number one, take something from someone and return it. Of course, the correct answer is borrow. Number two, able to give good advice. Of course, wise. Number three, happy. Happy, the same meaning is content. Number four, made of gold. Made of gold means golden. Number five, wanting more money, food, etc. than you need. Of course, the greedy person. Number six, a common white water bird. This is a goose. And now, choose a correct answer from A, B, C, or D. Number one, a story with a moral has a space. Of course, it has a message. Number two, if you feel content, you are, of course, you are happy. Number three, if you have enough water, you are not thirsty. Number four, it's a good idea to ask a wise person for, of course, advice. Number five, ants are wise because they space food for the winter. Of course, they are wise because they collect food for the winter. Number six, when someone is a space, he feels happy. Of course, when someone is content. Number seven, when something is made of gold, it's golden. Number eight, a or an space person wants more money, food, etc. than they need. Of course, a greedy person. Number nine, to space is to take something from someone, then return it. To borrow, of course. And now, my dear students, let's move to Grammar Unit 16, Lessons 1 and 2, the past simple tense. We form the past simple of regular verbs by adding the suffix ed to the infinitive. For example, yesterday I worked in the evening. The spelling rules for the past simple tense. We can add ed to the infinitive, like want, wanted, like, liked, play, played. If the verb ends in e, we can add only d, like arrive, arrived, hate, hated, love, loved. If the verb ends in consonant before y, we can change y into I plus ed, such as try, tried. One syllable verbs double the consonant letter plus ed. Like what? Like plan, planet, double the last letter. Stop, stopped, double the last letter. What are the uses of the past simple tense? Number one, we can use past simple tense to express actions that started and finished in the past. For example, I didn't go to the beach last Sunday. Number two, actions that happened one after the other in the past, like in a story. For example, when we recite the Oliver Twist novel, we can say Oliver Twist escaped to London. Then he met a young boy called Jack Hawkins. After that, he worked for Fagin. The pronunciation of the past of regular verbs. When the infinitive ends in a voiceless consonant, such as P, K, K, S, S, F, H, I, S, when we add ed to these verbs which end in these letters, we can pronounce ed to ta, ta, like like when we add d to change like from the present form into the past simple form, we can pronounce it like t. Watch, watched, finish, finished, and so on. And when the infinitive ends in a voiced consonant like P, G, I, M, N, R, V, W, Y, Z, or in a vowel sound, so when we add the ed to these verbs which end in these letters, we can pronounce the verbs d, 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 like played, like love, loved. What about id, id? When the infinitive ends in t or d, we can pronounce the ed into id, such as want, wanted, decide, decided. And now let's move to another tense, which is the past perfect tense. The past perfect tense is used to talk about an action which happened before another action in the past. And what about its form? The form is subject plus had plus past participle. The past participle may be regular verb or irregular verb. For example, Mom had baked a cake before the party started. Here, where's the first action? Of course, Mom had baked a cake is the first action. After that, the party started. And the most common time expressions which related to the past perfect tense are after, before, when, by, as soon as, by the time. And now let's practice. We called a taxi. We locked the door. Of course, the first action, we called a taxi. And the second action, we locked the door. So when we use before at the beginning of the sentence, we can say, before we locked the door, we had called a taxi. Remember that the first action must be the past perfect tense, and the second action must be the past simple tense. Another example, we reached the railway station. The train left. I think the first action, the train had left, and the second action, we reached the railway station. So, when we use by the time in the middle of the sentence or at the beginning of the sentence, we can say, by the time we reached the railway station, the train had left. And when we use by the time in the middle of the sentence, we can say, the train had left by the time we reached the railway station. Another example, he spoke to a policeman. He saw an accident. Of course, the first action will be he had seen an accident. After that, he spoke to a policeman. When we use after at the beginning of the sentence, we can say, after he had seen an accident, he spoke to a policeman. And when we use after in the middle of the sentence, we can say, he spoke to a policeman after he had seen an accident. And if there are two actions in the past, we can use the past perfect tense as the first action and the past simple tense as a second action. So we can use after as soon as followed by the past perfect tense. After that, the second action will be the past simple tense. After and as soon as in the middle of the sentence, followed by the past perfect tense, and before that, the past simple tense. For example, after he had finished his work, he went home. He had breakfast as soon as he had washed his face. Of course, the first action, he had washed his face, and the second action, he had breakfast. Ali watched TV after he had done his homework. The first action here is he had done his homework, and the second action, Ali watched TV. And we can also use before, by the time, and when, followed by the past simple tense as the second action. After that, the past perfect tense as the first action. For example, before he arrived, his uncle had left the house. So here in this sentence, the first action is his uncle had left the house. After that, he arrived. Number two, he had visited his friend by the time he wrote the letter. In this sentence, the first action is he had visited his friend. After that, he wrote the letter. Number three, when he arrived at the station, the train had left. So, the first action here, the train had left. And after that, he arrived at the station. A very important note. If the sentence has no subject, we can use after followed by during, and the gerund here will be the first action. For example, after reading the letter, he felt happy. So the first action here, after reading the letter, means after he had read the letter. Number two, the same thing happened with before. So if before followed by a gerund, the gerund here will be the second action. For example, before buying a car, she had learned how to drive. She had learned how to drive. This is the first action. Before buying a car, this is the second action. My dear students, we can also use till and until in the middle of the sentence with the past perfect tense as the first action and the past simple tense as the second action. But remember, we have to use the negation of the past simple tense here. Didn't plus infinitive in the active form and wasn't, weren't plus pp in the passive voice form. So we can say I didn't play football until I had finished my homework. So the first action here, I had finished my homework. After that, I played football. So when I say to you, I didn't play football until I had finished my homework. Number two, the car wasn't sold till he had repaired it. So the first action here, he had repaired his car. After that, he sold it. So his car wasn't sold till he had repaired it. After that, we can use because and as in the middle of the sentence with the past perfect tense as the first action and the past simple tense as the second action. And also we have so and that's why. We can use past simple tense after them as the second action and before them we can use past perfect tense as the first action. For example, I was very tired because I had worked hard. So the first action here, I had worked hard. So I was very tired. Number two, they had trained hard. So, or that's why they won the cup. Let's move to evaluation number one. Rewrite the following using the words in brackets to give the same meaning. Number one, first we booked the tickets. Then we went to the concert. Rewrite using before in the middle of the sentence. So the first action here, we booked the tickets. And the second action, we went to the concert. When we use before in the middle of the sentence, we can say we had booked the tickets before we went to the concert. Number two, we visited the museum. Then we went home. So the first action, we visited the museum. And the second action, we went home. When we use after at the beginning of the sentence, we can say after we had visited the museum, we went home. Number three. First, I finished my work, then I went to club. Rewrite using until in the middle of the sentence. So, until, before until, we can use the negation of the past simple tense. So, the second action here, I went to the club. And after until, we can use the past perfect tense as the first action. So, we can say, I didn't go to club or I didn't go to the club until I had finished my work. Number four, first I studied my lessons, then I did my homework. Rewrite using after at the beginning of the sentence. We can say, after I had studied my lessons, I did my homework. So the first action here, I had studied my lessons. After that, I did my homework. Number five, after we had visited the museum, we decided to have lunch. Rewrite using until we can use until in the middle of the sentence, followed by the past perfect tense as the first action. And the first action here, we had visited the museum. And the second action, we decided to have lunch. So the correct answer will be we didn't decide to have lunch until we had visited the museum. Number six. After Hala had bought a pair of shoes, she went back home. We can use here before in the middle of the sentence. So the correct answer will be Hala had bought a pair of shoes before she went back home. So the first action before Hala had bought a pair of shoes. And the second action, she went back home. And now let's move to Unit 16, Lessons 3 and 4, Animal Stories. And the objectives of Lessons 3 and 4, number 1, write sentences in the past perfect and the past simple tenses. Number 2, answer questions after reading a passage about a famous soldier in student's book, page 36. Number 3. Answer questions after listening to a conversation about a scary situation in student's book, page 36. After that, use some new vocabulary in the text. And the last one, practice how to respond to news. 1. Escape. Escape as a verb means to run away. Number 2, rob. Rob as a verb means to steal a place or person. Number 3, discover. Discover as a verb means to find out. Number 4, wonderful as an adjective. Wonderful means fantastic. And now choose the correct words to describe how each person feels. Number 1, when she says, how wonderful! Of course, she's happy. Number 2, when someone says, oh no, how terrible! Of course, they are very sad. Number 3, when she says, really? I can't believe it. Of course, she's very surprised. Number 4, when she says, oh dear, perhaps you should see the doctor. Of course, she's very worried. Now, write what you would say in each of the following situations. Number 1, your friend's aunt died. What would you say? You can say, oh dear, I'm sorry to hear that. Number 2, your father bought a new car. What would you say? You can say, how wonderful, or you can say, congratulations, Dad. Number 3, your friend has failed his math test. What would you say? Oh no! I wish you could do well in the next one. Number 4. Your friend's sister has just had a baby. What would you say? Really? I can't believe that. Or you can say, congratulations. Number 5. Your favorite football player scored a goal. What would you say? You can say, how wonderful. At the end of our session, I hope you have been very well informed. May Allah bless you. Please study hard and you will achieve the best marks. Thank you. Goodbye.